All right, let's dive in. We're going to talk about a story of a guy who had it all. Power, respect, victory, you name it. But secretly, something was eating him alive. And it's a powerful story about healing, but trust me, it's probably not in the way you're thinking.
You know, this quote it hits the nail on the head, doesn't it? Magnificent ruin. We all have one. That part of our lives our shiny armor just can't cover up. A weakness, a fear, some kind of secret wound. And for this great general, Naaman, this wasn't just a metaphor. Oh no, it was very, very real.
So here's how we're going to break this down. First, we'll look at the armor and the ulcer. Then, we'll follow the journey into silence. After that, things get heated in the crucible of pride. Then comes the big moment, the seventh dip. And finally, we'll unpack 2 healings, 2 curses. It's going to be quite a ride. Let's get started.
All right, first up, the armor and the ulcer. So our story kicks off with this huge internal conflict. You've got a man who's all strength on the outside, but is dealing with this devastating disease on the inside.
Okay, so let's meet our main guy, Naaman. This dude is a big deal. He's the commander of the whole Aramaean army, the king's go-to guy, a total rock star on the battlefield, the absolute picture of success. But, and it's a huge but, that one word just changes everything. Because under all that impressive armor, Naaman's hiding a disease that is just slowly but surely destroying him.
Now, we really have to get what leprosy meant back then. This wasn't just some skin condition. Nope, it was basically a social death sentence. It meant you were unclean and outcast. And yeah, sure, Naaman's high rank protected him for now. But this thing was like a secret ulcer, a shadow creeping in, threatening to tear his whole world apart.
So what do you do when you're a man of immense power and you face a problem you can't just fight? Well, you try to buy your way out. He shows up with this mind-boggling amount of wealth. We're talking 10 talents of silver, 6,000 shekels of gold. To put that in perspective, that's like 750 pounds of silver and 150 pounds of gold. It's an insane amount of money. Naaman's logic is pretty simple, right? Everything has a price. He's about to learn a very hard lesson. You can't buy a miracle.
Okay, so Naaman's world is falling apart. He's desperate. He sets out on a journey. But here's the thing. The path to his healing doesn't start where you'd expect. You know, not in a king's palace or some fancy doctor's office. No, it starts with just a whisper.
And where this whisper of hope comes from, that's what's so incredible. It's not from a king, not from a wise old advisor. It comes from a young captive girl, a slave in Naaman's own house. I mean, she has zero power, right? But with just this simple, pure faith, she tells them about a prophet back home who can heal her master. Think about that. One little sentence from who they thought was the most insignificant person in the room is about to change absolutely everything.
And this next part, oh man, it just perfectly shows you the limits of worldly power. So the king of Aram sends a letter, right? And it basically reads like a command, cure my general. As if you can just order a miracle like you're ordering troops into battle. But the king of Israel? He completely freaks out. He literally tears his clothes, thinking, this is a setup. He's trying to start a war with me. So you've got these 2 kings. And for totally different reasons, they're both completely powerless. They have no clue what to do.
So the king's court is a bust. Naaman then goes to the prophet Elisha's house, which is probably just some humble little place. And he doesn't just show up, he arrives. Horses, chariots, the whole military entourage. He's expecting a red carpet, a reception fit for a VIP. And what does he get? Nothing. Silence. The door doesn't even open. The prophet himself can't be bothered to come out. For a man like Naaman, this isn't just rude, this is a massive, calculated insult.
Finally, a messenger pokes his head out and delivers this simple, almost laughable instruction. No big show, no magic words, just, yeah, go wash yourself 7 times in the Jordan River. That's it. And right there, the stage is set for Naaman's biggest battle ever. And it's not against some enemy army, it's against his own massive ego.
Okay, so this brings us to the absolute heart of the conflict, the crucible of his pride. This is the moment. Naaman has to choose between what he thought should happen and this command that makes absolutely zero sense to him.
And Naaman he loses it. He explodes in rage. You can just feel the wounded pride in every single word. I thought, he says, he had this whole movie playing in his head, right? The prophet would come out, bow, call on his God, do some dramatic hand-waving thing over the spot. That's what healing was supposed to look like for a man of his importance. And this was just a humiliating letdown.
And this really is the core of his whole struggle. I mean, from a logical standpoint, Naaman's not wrong. The rivers back home in Damascus, the Abana and Pharpar, they're beautiful, clean. My rivers, he calls them. And the Jordan? It's just a muddy, humble little river. The whole idea is ridiculous to him. But see, the cure was never about the quality of the water. The choice was between my rivers and God's river, his way or God's way.
So Naaman is fuming. He's turning his chariot around, ready to just leave. And then his servants come up to him, and they ask this brilliant, devastatingly simple question. They say, "My father, look, if the prophet told you to do some great, heroic thing, you would have done it in a heartbeat, right? So why not just do this simple little thing?" And that gentle logic, man, it just slices right through his anger. It's the key that finally unlocks his pride.
And that one question from his servants, it leads us to the turning point of this whole story. His pride has been checked. Now it's time to test his obedience.
So he does it. Naaman goes to the Jordan. He takes off the armor, the fancy robes, all his dignity really, and he steps into that muddy water. Can you just imagine that? The first dip, nothing. He comes up, still covered in sores. The second dip, still a leper. The third, the fourth, all the way to the sixth dip, still diseased. Every single one of those dips must have been this gut-wrenching act of raw, desperate faith, a complete surrender of his own logic. And then, on that seventh dip, the number of perfection and completion, it happens.
And the healing is, wow, it's absolute. It's not just that the disease is gone, it's a total restoration. The scripture says his skin became like that of a young boy. This is so much more than just a physical thing. It's a spiritual rebirth. The old, proud, diseased Naaman, he's gone, washed away in that muddy river. A brand new man climbs out.
So he goes back to Elisha, but this time he is a completely different person. He's not just grateful, he's transformed. He doesn't just say, "Wow, your God is powerful." He declares, "Now I know that there is no God in all the world except in Israel." He's not talking about Elisha's God anymore. He's saying this is the one true God. He came looking for a cure for his skin, and he walked away with a cure for his soul.
But wait, the story's not over yet. There's a final act here, and it provides this really important contrast, a kind of parallel story that hammers home the main point.
Naaman is just overjoyed, right? So he tries to give Elijah all that treasure he brought with him. But Elisha absolutely refuses. He won't take a thing. And you have to ask, why? Well, it's to make one point absolutely crystal clear. You cannot buy God's grace. It's not a transaction. It's a free gift. That's a lesson Naaman just learned. And it's a lesson that someone standing right there is about to tragically miss.
This is what makes the ending so powerful. It's this tale of two servants. You have Naaman, the outsider, the powerful general from another country. He starts out full of pride, learns humility, and gets healed completely. And then you have Gehazi. He's the ultimate insider, the prophet's own right-hand man. He saw the whole miracle happen, and all he could see were dollar signs.
So Gehazi literally runs after Naaman's caravan. He makes up this lie about needing money for some other prophets and takes some of the silver. But when he gets back, Elisha knows. And the consequence is swift, and it is brutally poetic. Elisha says, Naaman's leprosy will now cling to you. The very disease that Naaman was just freed from through his obedience now latches on to Gehazi because of his greed. He tried to put a price tag on a free gift, and he ended up paying with the curse itself.
And that's how this ancient story suddenly becomes a mirror, right? It's not really just about a general with a skin disease, it's about us. It makes us look at our own lives and ask, what's my muddy Jordan? What's that simple, humbling thing I'm refusing to do, just because it's not the river I would have chosen? Because it doesn't fit my plan, my script? And what kind of healing might be waiting for me, right on the other side of my own stubborn pride? It's a powerful question to chew on. Thanks for joining me for this one.